Hey, what's going on, everyone? Back with some knife content. I'm actually out of pocket a little bit. I'm over in New York from California visiting my folks, and one of the knives that my dad had, which I thought was kind of worth a review, was a Spyderco Autonomy. And I don't really have any experience with this knife. He kind of he gave it to me the first day I got here, and I was like, I'll take it for a rip. As you all know, though, my last kind of cross country trip that I took the plunge and brought a nice knife with, that would have been my zero tolerance 0562, and it actually got taken by TSA out of my checked bag. All they left was a note. Broke my heart. And so with that, my dad has since, I have a younger son. He's come out to visit him, and in appreciation for that, I actually ended up getting him a Benchmade bug out. So my dad kind of has, he's let me carry this while I've been here, and that's been really awesome, just because I don't know. I mean, like, I have a Zahn in my gun safe I literally got the day before I left, and certainly that CRK Sabenza 31 that I did that Damascus swap with. I wish I was carrying that, but I don't have it with me. So, but this was really cool to be able to check out this knife, and kind of wanted to give my initial impressions. And yeah, if anyone's into something like this, thought it would be a good look, because it's about all I have while I'm here. All right, so looking at this Spyderco Autonomous, so certainly it comes with the normal Spyderco box, so the red box. It actually doesn't even, so it's the Autonomy Orange. I don't know if you can see that on the box. It's probably flipped because I have my the screen on the camera rather, on my phone flipped, but just a normal run-of-the-mill Spyderco box, nothing crazy. My first impressions on this, so I definitely really do like the orange G10 scales that it has, and that's come from years of, certainly I love a good tactical knife, etc. But at the end of the day, like, if you drop something or you need to grab for something, the brighter it is, that kind of, it supersedes the tactical nature of a knife. Anytime I've needed a knife, the brighter it is, the easier it is to grab, and I definitely appreciate that. I also really like the wire clip that's on this. And I've searched around. The MSRP for this one is about $260, which I think is good. There's a few things that I definitely would have done different, but realizing that this knife was actually made in conjunction with the U.S. Coast Guard and their rescue swimmers, for use to cut lines, etc. And that was kind of the premise that my dad purchased this knife over, was being able to, obviously it has a fully serrated blade. There's a little bit of a regular blade on the tip here, but it's not going to be stabby or anything. Like, this would be great for seat belts, rope, line, etc. I think that it would definitely, it would serve that need. The other thing about this knife, so it is made in the Golden, Colorado factory, which I think is really cool, like having kind of that USA/Earth on the blade. That I think that's really cool. I I also I had to laugh, and I've seen Spydercos like this before, but none of them that I've owned. But the fact that they still have that Spidey hole, but it's not useful, and I had to I'd asked about that at a few of the modern day Marines or AUSA events that I've gone to. Is like, why does it still have this hole right here through the blade? But they just do that to keep up appearances, essentially. Like, they want to be like, oh, we've been doing that for years. Like, doesn't really serve any function, but that's our style, and I have to respect that in a way. The blade steel is going to be H1, which I realized from, like, I still have a PN. I forget what it is. Like, I do have like I think it's an H1 salt that is of the same steel. I've never really tried to sharpen it, but I've just heard that they're trash, so please don't beat me up. I know that, an option such as Vanex would be kind of a better way to go than H1, but I don't even know where you would start. I mean, this thing is like so serrated. It's definitely a specialty blade where, you wouldn't be whipping this out every time your wife orders something on Amazon. You just kind of be like, all right, I got something else to open this box with. So definitely a more specialty blade, but I don't know. I was actually like really impressed with this, and the more I like read about it, I think it's cool that it has like the traditional Spyderco pivot, but then you switch it over to the other side, and so this is actually so you can replace the spring in here, so the spring actuation without actually having to take the whole knife down, and I think that is really cool because I mean you see this thing, and we'll get into it in a second. You know, I really do I like push button autos, but I think on the whole they're kind of antiquated in a way, and yeah, we'll see why that is here in a little bit. So the purpose of this knife and like why it was made for Coast Guard rescue swimmers was certainly the ability to actuate this knife with gloves on, which, you know, Coast Guard rescue swimmers, whether they have a dry suit on, they're going to have gloves on. Being able to flip this safety up, which I've never been a fan of safeties, whether it's handguns or knives, like why do you need it? But obviously, I don't know. I don't pretend to know like where people are carrying this on their kit, whether it's you know, in their search and rescue pouch, whatever, like, or it's kind of going on a belt somewhere. I don't really know, but I would assume you're kind of keeping this in the live kind of like straight up, so it's ready to fire function. And this button, so this is like the largest you know, button to fire a knife that I've ever seen. Like, I mean, certainly whether you have work gloves on, whether you have like wetsuit gloves on, dry suit gloves on, you're going to be able to hit this every time. And I think that that's really cool. But the one kind of question that I asked my dad when he is very excited about this knife. Like, I do think that it's a very cool blade, but once you have this thing out, so yeah, so you're, you know, ripping it out of there. Once you have it out and then you cut what you need to, in order to put it away, like, it's very tricky. Like, even me, like, being in a temperate climate, again, I'm here in New York, it's very tricky to close with one hand. Like, the spring tension is definitely something of note, I would say. And I certainly have like a Spyderco H1 fixed blade that's exactly like this, where, you know, it would be like getting it into your pocket or throwing it away, whatever. It's interesting to me that they went with a folder, a push button auto that like presumably you try to save. So, you know, you push this to close the blade, but there's a lot that could happen here. And, you know, I think between like a wetsuit or a dry suit, you know, you trying to close this thing with one hand, whether you're, you know, holding on to something or doing something with your other hand, that would definitely be a challenge. So, you know, kind of a question mark from me. Like, I mean, I love what this knife stands for. I love kind of its task and purpose. Like, I love knives that have a purpose, but I definitely kind of asked that question. I'm like, how could you close this with one hand, like, you know, in a wetsuit, dry suit, trying, oh, you know, I don't want to lose it, whatever. I mean, to be completely honest with you, if I was in that situation, I had to use this thing to cut somebody free, cut some lines free, I would be tossing this thing. And it definitely has a very large lanyard hole here, so, you know, you could hook it to something, but at the end of the day, if I have this thing flopping around, I mean, it is sharp as shit. Like, I mean, this would puncture anything, like any sort of protective barrier you have to keep you from the elements, whether you're Coast Guard rescue swimmer or you're just a fisherman. That's kind of a question for me. So, I mean, I really do like this knife. I'm excited that my dad let me kind of take it for a rip, so to speak. Like, the ergonomics on this when it's open, I mean, like, look at that. I mean, they literally like built out a place for every one of your fingers. Like, it's a very confidence inspiring knife, but at the end of the day, like, I don't know, that kind of bothers me. Like, I think for the task and, you know, purpose of this knife, a fixed blade would probably be the better way to go. So those are kind of my initial impressions. Yeah, like I said, I've been out of town for a little bit, but I will be heading back to California in a few days. I have a couple of knife videos coming up. Also, we're still trying to push Everyday Blades, that new group that I started. We'll probably have a little bit of a waffle or a raffle coming up here, so stay tuned for that. Check it out if you have not already. But appreciate you all tuning in, and see you back in California soon enough. Take care. Hey, so just a little update. Just trying to take some pictures for the, not behind the scenes, but just kind of like the pictures for this Autonomy. Threw this into a tree. I bent the shit out of the blade. So, take that with a grain of salt. I owe my dad an autonomy, so I own this knife now. I don't know what I'm going to do, but be careful with it.